Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine for a moment you're a brilliant AI researcher. You've got these incredible language models, these transformers, right? And you want them to understand everything, like truly soak up knowledge from massive amounts of data. So you feed them long text, hoping they'll just absorb every last detail. But then, bam, you hit a wall. A really, really expensive, computationally intense wall. So you train transformers on long sequences, and they just choke. The cost grows quadratically. It just explodes with every bit of added context length. It's like trying to push a fire hose through a drinking straw. The system, it just can't handle it. So you think, sub-quadratic architectures, that's the answer. You can try them, and they starve. Their internal state, that vital memory for learn, it's just too small. They learn basically nothing useful from all that data. It's like giving them a thimble to drink from a well, completely insufficient. Then you get clever, right? Sliding windows, that'll surely do it. You try those. And they forget. Any context beyond that small window might as well just not exist. It's like giving your model, I don't know, short-term memory loss every few sentences.
Yeah, and what it was fascinating here is that this isn't just about trying to make the models bigger. It's really about making them smarter with vast amounts of information. The core problem, like you've laid out so well, is finding that delicate balance. You realize these long context models, they need this perfect equilibrium. Not too much compute, because that just breaks the bank, but definitely not too little compute, because that starves their ability to learn. The internal state and the model's weights, they have to dance together, ideally in a sort of 1.1 ratio in terms of computational effort. This search for balance, this central tension, is precisely what we're diving into today.
Exactly. So what's our mission in this deep dive for you, our listener? We're going to explore the absolute cutting edge of AI, specifically how researchers are tackling this monumental challenge. How do you make AI models truly well-informed over huge amounts of data, not just these short snippets? We'll introduce a really interesting new innovation called power attention, and we'll see how it boldly steps in to try and resolve this frustrating dilemma, maybe promising a path forward for those million-token contexts of tomorrow. So let's zoom in on why those big, powerful transformers, the ones behind so many of the, impressive LLMs we use today, struggle so much with truly long sequences. Because this is where it gets really interesting, right? The problem is kind of fundamental.
Right. Traditional transformers, at their core, they rely on these self-attention mechanisms.
Yeah.
And while they're incredibly powerful, this mechanism brings a fundamental limitation. Their computational cost scales quadratically with the context length.
Quadratically.
Yeah. So what that means in practice is if you double the length of the text you're feeding the model, the compute cost quadruples. And when you start talking about contexts of millions or even billions of tokens, this scaling, it just quickly becomes prohibitively expensive, both in time and money, really. And this limitation is why you see current large language models typically trained on much shorter contexts, generally, around 4,000 to maybe 32,000 tokens. They just can't efficiently handle more than that.
So that's the choke we talked about. The system just can't breathe with that much data input. But what about the other side of the coin? Those starving models, the sub-quadratic ones.
Yeah, good question. So sub-quadratic architectures, like those using linear attention, they were developed specifically to tackle that cost issue. And they do. They achieve a linear computational cost, which is a massive efficiency gain on paper.
Okay, sounds good so far.
But they often come with a trade-off, a smaller internal state size.
Yeah.
So while they're efficient in terms of compute, this smaller state unfortunately limits their in-context learning, their ICL ability.
ICL and context learning.
Right, exactly. It means they struggle to effectively use information from really long sequences to improve their predictions. In a way, they're too inexpensive computationally, to the point where it hurts their ability to actually learn from the context. Which, raises that important question. If you can't really learn from the context, what's the point of having it?
Right. And then there was a third problem, the forget issue. What happens with that sliding window approach you mentioned?
Yeah, the sliding window. It's an attempt to cut down that quadratic cost by basically just truncating the model's memory. It only looks back a fixed window size, pragmatic for efficiency, sure, but it severely impairs in-context learning. Because the model effectively forgets anything outside that window. Imagine trying to read a novel if you only remember the last page. The plot, the characters, all lost.
Okay, yeah, that wouldn't work.
So it makes it unsuitable for tasks that need real long-term dependencies. The core problem across all these approaches, the choking transformer, the starving linear model, the forgetting window, it's the same fundamental challenge, finding an architecture that truly balances computational efficiency with robust in-context learning over really vast contexts.
So if these existing approaches all hit these like fundamental snags, what does a truly effective long context architecture need? The researchers behind power attention, they lay out three critical things, right? Like three pillars holding it all up.
Indeed. The first crucial attribute is what they call a balanced weight-to-state ratio, or WSFR, specifically at long contexts. This is basically a measure of the computational operations involving the model's parameters, its weights, versus the operations involving its internal memory, its state.
Yeah.
Weight FLOPs versus state FLOPs.
FLOPs being floating point operations, the measure of compute.
Exactly. And for models designed to be compute optimal, this ratio should ideally be close to 1-to-1. If it's heavily skewed, maybe 100-to-1 weights to state or vice versa, it means you're really underutilizing one part of your model's capacity. Doubling the smaller dimension would be, quote, effectively free in terms of total computation and could significantly boost performance.
Okay, so it's about balance.
Mm-hmm.
If your model spends way too much time thinking about its state and not enough processing its weights, or the other way around, it's just inefficient, how did the current model stack up against this ideal 1.1 balance?
Well, traditional exponential attention, like in standard transformers, it starts balanced but quickly becomes state-heavy at very long contexts. It does way more state operations than weight operations. Conversely, linear attention is always weight-heavy. It prioritizes parameters over state across all context lengths.
So neither hits that sweet spot for long contexts.
Right. Windowed attention can achieve the ratio balance, technically, but as we discussed, it struggles with the actual learning part, which kind of makes the balance a moot point if it can't use the context anyway.
Okay. Pillar 1 is balance. What's pillar 2?
Pillar 2 is that the architecture must admit an efficient hardware-aware implementation on tensor cores. I mean, modern AI runs on GPUs, right? Specifically using their specialized tensor cores for these massively parallel computations.
Yeah, you need it to actually run fast in the real world.
Exactly. If an architecture isn't designed to work efficiently with this hardware, it's just not practical. No one will use it. This often means using clever techniques like operator fusion, where you combine multiple steps into one highly optimized chunk of code, a kernel, to avoid constantly moving data back and forth from memory. That avoids memory bottlenecks. It's a concept that was really pushed forward by things like flash attention.
Makes sense. Got to be fast on the actual chips. And the final pillar, the third one.
The third, and maybe the most vital, is good in-context learning, ICL ability.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the whole point of a long context model is that it can actually use all that extra information to make better predictions or decisions.
Right, it has to learn from it.
Precisely. Models that truncate or limit access to past information, even if it's for efficiency, they fundamentally undermine this ability. We've seen, for instance, that windowed attention's ICL effectively just flatlines after about 100 tokens.
Only 100.
Yeah, it essentially stops learning from any further context, despite having maybe a balanced compute ratio. So much of its long context becomes useless for actual deep learning.
Wow, okay, so the challenge is huge. Finding a model that hits all three, balanced compute, hardware efficiency, and strong in-context learning that's been incredibly difficult, seems like a real catch-22. Until now, perhaps.
Which brings us nicely to the star of this deep dive, power attention. It sounds like this new approach takes a really fresh look at these challenges. How does it aim to hit all three of those crucial pillars at the same time? Well, power attention is introduced as this novel architectural layer. It's specifically designed for linear cost sequence modeling, so it tackles the efficiency part. But its key innovation is this hyperparameter, they call it P. And this P allows the model state size its memory, essentially to be adjusted independently of its parameter count, its weights.
Ah, so you can tune the state size separately.
Exactly. This flexibility is absolutely crucial for achieving that balanced weight-to-state FLOPs ratio for architectures of pretty much any scale. So for example, with a standard head size of 64, setting P2 increases the state size by about 32 times. P3 boosts it by around 700 times, and P4 by a staggering 12,000 times.
Whoa.
This lets the model be, as the researchers put it, neither too hungry nor too skinny. It gives you this precision dial for balancing state and weights.
That's incredible control over the balance. Okay, so it tackles that problem head on. What about hardware efficiency? Does it build on things like flash attention?
It does. For efficient hardware-aware implementation, power attention uses a very similar philosophy to flash attention. It uses something called a fused expand MMA kernel. The key is that it avoids creating these huge intermediate calculations in the main high bandwidth memory, the HBM, which is slow.
Right, keeping things close to the compute units.
Precisely. They developed open source GPU kernels for this, using the technique called tiled symmetric power expansion, or TSPoW. And this TSPoW approach is pretty neat because it blends the GPU friendliness of a simpler tensor power expansion with the memory efficiency of a more complex symmetric power expansion. It works on small tiles of data, avoiding those memory bottlenecks.
So a clever fusion of existing ideas optimized. What kind of actual speed are they seeing on hardware?
The benchmarks look really good. At a 64,000 token context length, which is pretty long, power attention with P2 runs 8.6 times faster than flash attention for a head size of 32, measured in wall clock time.
8.6 times faster, that's huge.
It is. It really shows its practical efficiency at scale. That's vital for it to be adopted.
Okay, massive speed up. But speed isn't everything if it can't learn, right? The third pillar was good in-context learning. Does power attention deliver there too? Did they trade off learning for speed?
That's the crucial question, and empirically, no. It seems power attention really excels in context learning, ICL. They trained it on the long crawl 64 dataset that's documents with 65,536 tokens each. Really long stuff.
Okay.
And power attention's ICL curves, which show how well it learns as it sees more context, are consistently and significantly steeper than equivalent windowed attention models.
Steeper meaning it learns more from the longer context.
Exactly. It indicates it's effectively utilizing that extended context to improve its predictions. Unlike windowed attention, which, remember, flatlined after about 100 tokens, power attention just keeps climbing. It seems to soak up the information.
And how does it stack up against the other big players like standard transformers or linear attention in terms of overall performance? That loss per FLOP metric.
Yeah, so when training on those really long 65,536 token contexts, power attention, specifically with P2, consistently dominates both traditional exponential attention and native linear attention, like RWKV, looking at loss per FLOP.
How does it beat both?
Well, it beats exponential attention because its linear cost means it can just do many more training steps, more gradient descent for the same amount of compute, so it learns more efficiently over time. And it outperforms native linear attention because power attention enables much stronger in-context learning. It benefits significantly from context way beyond, where models like RWKV typically stop seeing improvements around maybe 2,000 tokens for RWKV. Power attention keeps learning. It's really rebalancing the equation, state and compute working hand in hand effectively.
Right. So if someone comes along and says, but transformers still rule short contexts, you can show them the numbers. For long sequences, power attention looks like the thing that tips the scale. And if they say, but linear attention was supposed to solve this efficiency problem, you can point to that crucial balance. Power attention grows its state, its memory, without drowning in cost. And then maybe they go quiet. Because it seems like this isn't just tweaking a layer, it's more fundamental.
You could say that. It feels like building a bridge.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly promising, a potential game changer. But, no research is ever completely finished. What are the next steps or the acknowledged limitations here? Where does power attention or this line of research still need to grow?
Absolutely. The researchers are very clear about the limitations. For one, these initial experiments were focused on measuring negative log likelihood, basically, how well it predicts the next word on generic web text, that long crawl 64 dataset. Future work really needs to validate these findings in other areas, different domains, maybe other modalities entirely like audio or video, and definitely on various downstream tasks that require more than just prediction, like reasoning or summarization.
Okay, so we've seen it work for text prediction, but can it generalize? Can it translate its benefits to other kinds of data, other kinds of problems?
Precisely. That's a key next step. Another interesting point they make is that the 65,536 token context length they used, while great for testing, is actually, quote, far larger than is compute optimal for just predicting the next word in natural language. That task often relies more on nearby words.
Ah, so for that specific task, the benefit of such long context might be diminished.
Exactly. So the researchers plan to specifically seek out domains where performance really depends heavily on long-term dependencies. Things like complex chain of thought reasoning, or AI using external tools, or processing very long audio files or video sequences. In those settings, where a large context is actually compute optimal, power attention's advantages should become profoundly more significant. And their implementation details too. While the speedups are impressive, the current implementation is in Triton.
A newer GPU language, right?
Yeah, and it's not yet as hyper-optimized as, say, Flash Attention's implementation in CDA, which has had more development time. So future work involves moving the power attention kernels to CEK to likely squeeze out even more wall clock performance. They also mentioned exploring things like different normalization methods to allow for odd powers of P, giving even finer control over state and size. And of course, more comprehensive comparisons with other techniques and deeper analysis of scaling laws.
So the journey definitely continues, but it sounds like they've charted a really exciting new map for navigating these truly massive million-token contexts of tomorrow. The potential for what AI could do next seems, well, significantly expanded. You realize, thinking about it, they didn't just tweak a layer. Like you said, they built a bridge, a potential bridge between the raw efficiency of linear attention and the deep learning power of transformers specifically for these ultra-long contexts. It
Yeah.
really feels like a moment of rethinking attention itself.
I agree. This work really underscores that pushing the boundaries of AI isn't just about scaling up the same old models bigger and bigger. It's often about fundamentally rethinking the core architectural components to achieve that elusive, critical balance between efficiency and deep, genuine learning. The potential impact on how AI can interact with, process, and truly understand just vast amounts of information is, well, it's immense.
So the next time you interact with an AI model, maybe pause and consider that hidden ballet of computation and memory happening behind the scenes, and perhaps the quiet revolution of something like power attention, enabling it to remember and learn from more information than ever before. What new possibilities does that open up for you? How might you leverage AI differently if it could truly grasp the context of an entire book or a complex project history? Something to think about.